this week's Beyond the Odds. Very good to see you again.
You too, man.
Happy Wednesday. So baseball's wrapping up, kind of into the playoffs and winding down. NFL's coming up. So far, so good.
You enjoying the playoffs? You watched much yesterday or today?
No, I have not. I did not yesterday. I was still licking my wounds from my bet when I took the Giants, and they absolutely caved in.
I feel you.
In a mega failure way. That was an ugly game.
It was awful to watch. I felt bad for the quarterback, Daniel Jones. My God, that poor guy.
That was rough.
That's probably one of the worst showings I've seen on Monday Night Football, I think, ever.
Yeah. And I was at the KU K-State Toilet Bowl game back in the 80s when the two worst teams in the nation battled to a tie.
Yeah.
Neither one of the teams got a win that year. And they played each other.
For Nebraska, I used to love the KU K-State.
I used to hate it when Nebraska would come in. The whole stadium would turn red. We were like your other home game stadium. But now that's not the case anymore.
KU's better than Nebraska, so I'm not saying it.
There you go.
So what's on the agenda for this week?
All right. Well, we've got the Model of the Week winner, who is...
You want to announce it?
Well, why don't you go ahead and do it, because I can't read your writing. It's Big Kahuna.
It is Big Kahuna. I actually don't know who Big Kahuna is myself. I'll have to get the email address, and we'll send him out an email and congratulate him. He won the last week of baseball, basically. We're moving to football this week. Football starts... Basically, the weeks are typically Tuesday through Monday. It's kind of how we do the week, so we can kind of accommodate for football. So this week will be no more baseball because it's playoffs. There's not a lot of games, so we're going to... So the football, we will basically kick it off the contest Thursday, and we will run that through Monday, and whoever has the most units on the last 7 days on the website will be the winner.
Awesome.
You going to win it?
I can't win it.
Oh, come on.
Oh, Mike, I'm sure I'm going to win all of it.
Actually, in baseball, I think you were actually right there in the running last week.
I was doing okay.
I think you were right in the top 3. Let's just take a sneak peek. This is kind of running into the playoff period, but Big Kahuna, obviously, the model I use all the time got first. Big Kahuna actually got. Then I thought you were down. You are down here, but you were higher than that, I thought.
Now I might have had a slight tail off. I had a couple of games that went south on me. They were close.
My biggest problem is the model does well. I pick out 2 games. I feel like I try to pick the best 2 games based on the confidence and the numbers that I look at, and it seems like I picked the wrong games. The model does well, but I don't play every game. That's my biggest challenge, because I don't want to play a lot.
Well, it's true when you do look at that, because I do the same thing. I'll only pick a few of the games on there, and there's just too many games for me. I can't get them all. That's too much for me.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. When you sit and look at the models overall, I mean, 65, 67% win rate on that. If I bet them all, my units were right for those.
Yeah,
I'd be super happy. But I'm not that smart.
Yeah, well, there's a lot goes into it. I guess we'll start at the top. So promoting the podcast. I honestly, this is what, podcast number 6, 7?
7, isn't it?
7.
Number 7.
God, these are flying by.
They do. Each week seems to happen in a row.
What's your favorite podcast so far?
I think it's probably going to be this one, because the one last week had some technical difficulties.
We apologize for that. We are definitely evolving the tech. It's going to get very cool. We'll be able to talk to and see the people that connect with us.
And we're getting ready to be able to have our community members join us and come in and join live and ask questions using the Riverside platform. Tim and I have been working on the background testing that. We're just about ready to roll that out, so that'll make it easier for the community members that are really active and involved, that they want to come in and join us and have a question or just come in and chat for a little bit. We can do that live and bring them in a little easier than before, because we've been trying to figure out how to do that. We are really excited about that piece, because that allows the community to come in and ask questions live. We can answer or not answer, depending on what the question is, and move on from there. So that's coming out probably next week. I think we'll be able to start our first one with that.
Yeah, I was telling Tim about that. I was like, I really want to do a monthly roundtable with the top modelers. Bring in the guys who are the heavy hitters, the guys who really dig into the numbers, and they're just hardcore modelers. They're all about it. They're passionate about it. It's kind of almost like a lifestyle for these guys. bring them in, throw out some topics, see the different viewpoints.
Yeah, and every time we get engagement from the community, they come in with so many good ideas and just a different way of looking at things that
It's an always learning thing.
it's amazing. From why don't you have a widget that takes the officiating into example, into account, or
Right.
how cloudy the weather's going to be, or gosh, all the different things that come up that become.
We've been talking about a weather gadget actually.
Yeah.
For imagine Green Bay in December when it's 10 below zero, snowing. Do you think they're going to throw the ball around? No.
Nope.
Of course, the odds makers know this. The sports books, I should say, that know this, and they drop the line. They adjust it. But if you get a forecast and you can adjust your model, that's kind of cool.
I think that would be a really cool thing to have in there, because that's just one more little tweak and item that comes in that can affect your overall outcome.
Exactly. So we got the let's see, weekly winner. Let's see, tracking units versus win losses. This is actually a kind of a subject I'm excited to talk about.
All right.
As I don't actually post the picks out everywhere. I put them on Twitter, TikTok, and then I hand them off to Tim. He's tight, and he's the marketing, the brains of the operation here. And he told me people really get upset if you don't put the win losses out there. And I said, Tim, here's the thing. I don't have to basically keep track of my wins and losses. You know how it is, right? If I'm betting baseball, I take the minus 200 to minus 250 every day. I'll probably hit 60%. But guess what? I'll probably be negative units.
Yep.
And I know for a fact, I was watching the dogs, and at one point the dogs were making money between 42 to 44%. So I don't put a lot of weight in wins and losses. And then the second thing is, a lot of people talk about tracking your units. I track my units based on the bankroll. The only thing that really measurement for me is money. And so I put, let's say, $500 into an account for baseball. I put $500 in for basketball. In a different account, I put $500 in for football. And when baseball was over, it went from 500 to 1,500 hypothetically. If I'm betting $100 units, I know up 10 units. That's how I do my math. I don't have to do spreadsheets. I don't have to get on it every day and hammer through, chicken walk my numbers. I just know the numbers. Obviously, and I'm also not selling the picks. I'm really promoting the analytics and the tool. And I think that's really kind of the value we're trying to bring to the table is look at the numbers, build a community, build the collaboration, learn how to model better together. You can even share models in the tool, right? I can share a model. We could edit, work through it. And I think it's interesting. But you know what? Everybody's got their own viewpoint. They're not right or wrong. They're just viewpoints.
And I totally agree with you, because the win-loss piece, for me, I'm doing it by the bankroll. Because that's at the end of the day, that's what I care about.
Yeah.
And then when I first started, not really, being a complete novice bettor.
Yeah.
The cost of the bet versus how many units I put in there, I should have bet more. Even though I won, I basically made nothing because it was a heavy favorite.
Yeah.
So I didn't get it. And then the confidence where you're getting a little extra on the back end for one because you're playing the other side. All of a sudden, I'm like, crap, I just made a lot more money.
Mm-hmm.
I go, woohoo.
I'm trying to stick to dogs in the playoffs because I feel like the playoffs, there's a lot of parity. They're all the better teams, but I'm not sure that model's going to work. But I'm trying. I've only bet 2 units yesterday. I lost. I bet 2 units today, both on Toronto. That was the best pick in the model. And I did not like the day when I saw it was Toronto again. I was like, please, not again. But I follow the numbers. I don't go with my heart. I don't use my opinion. I do watch the games at night as much as I can. So I have an opinion, and I love when I see the model picks a game that I'm excited about. That's kind of how I do my units, which we'll get into more later too, because there's ways to do it in the tool, right? You can pick the games or set the pick kind of criteria. You can also basically set the unit criteria. There's a kind of a default called the Kelly criterion, which we have as a default. There's ways to set that up. We'll talk about that a little bit, probably get into more later because we're evolving that feature a lot. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
And that's definitely of interest because that's, that how you manage your bankroll with your unit bets based on what your picks are. And I absolutely love the no pick. That's been a big help because it kind of helps weed out the ones that are just, you're just floating right here.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stay away from them, but I'm going to use these numbers. And that has been successful for me, at least.
Yeah. Well, think about the dream. The dream is to have the same pop up every day when like you used to do in the newspaper when we were kids, right? Now it's the internet, obviously, but pop up the screen, look at the thing. It says, hey, you've got 15 games today. There's 5 picks. You rank them, top to bottom. You look at them. It tells you how many units to bet. You don't have to even think. You've done all the thinking up front.
Yeah.
No calculating what games to bet today. And the cool part is what I want to get to is actually then being able to get a bankroll management kind of tool inside the product where we can start to reconcile how we're betting against the model. Because if my model is hitting 15 units this week, like it says right here, and I'm up 5, did I pick the wrong games? What did I do wrong?
Yep.
I want to learn my betting trends, not just the predictive confidence trends. I want to reconcile kind of me as a bettor as much as what does the model tell me to bet.
Absolutely, because that's at the end of the day, that's your success or failure rate.
It is.
You're betting.
Exactly.
So that as you keep pulling the onion back a little bit and figuring out, oh, I ought to watch this too, and I want to bring this in. And as the tool evolves, it gets its accuracy and how you bet and how you work. It continues to move up in your confidence in the tool and the success of it with the data points that we're seeing so far. At least that's been my experience so far. I can't wait to see some of the other tools that evolve with this that you're bringing up right now, because I will admit freely, I like the easy button. I can't lie, Dean Martin. I want the easy button. I want it to show me an order of magnitude, the best confidence, the way I'm betting, taking with that account, and it helps me out. And that's getting there.
I think most people want the easy button. I think most people are going to get the easy button as far as build the model or buy the model or share the model, whatever the method they have to get the model. I don't care, right? But you're right. I think 95% of people just want to know what picks are out there and kind of maybe know the formula in some way to kind of know why you're picking the game. They don't probably want to go deep into the numbers, but just kind of fundamentally, why am I picking this game? Is it heavily based on the reading the lines? Is it heavy based on the team stats? Is it heavy on the umpire stats?
Weather
stat, or I guess it's not a stat, but
whether it's an impact to any given.
Exactly. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming. This kind of came out. This wasn't even a piece of code in February.
Yeah.
And we basically built a prototype, started playing with it. March, April, May, it was really, really kind of just a very entry level. I wouldn't even call it a prototype. We used it for NBA, and we were basically, what the thing was, I was kind of working with the chief nerd officer, as I call him. He's obviously one of the founders, but if he's listening, you are the chief nerd officer. But anyway, so we basically kind of went back and forth, because you got to take, my way of doing betting historically, which is reading the lines and trying to understand the team stats in my head and apply that where people do it on spreadsheets and build a tool. So there's a lot of back and forth. And I think we kind of started hitting the ground running probably about July. It's kind of, or August is when we started to see the numbers, the models work, and the bankrolls were growing. Now what we're doing right now is, is we've got a new UI coming. So the user interface will be much more polished and cosmetically appealing. I think it's about 90% done from talking to him today. So I expect in the next couple of days, he'll flip a switch and you'll see a brand new UI.
I know what I've seen so far. I think it looks pretty nice.
You checked it out, did you?
Yeah.
The graphics on the analytics was good.
Easier to read, cleaner, sharper.
Yeah. It won't look like a prototype.
Yep.
And then the second thing is we're going to start working on the UX, the usability, which honestly, that's going to be huge for the modeling piece, because the modeling piece right now, I admit it's not super usable, but we're also trying to make sure there's a skill set factor to modeling, because if you make it so easy to use, or if you throw an AI and say, hey, build me the best model, it's going to auto build the same model for everybody. So we got to keep the skills level to it. And that's one thing about the standings. We've kind of been watching carefully to make sure that we believe that there's a skill factor to modeling, because the tool has to have that component for this to work.
Absolutely. And I could agree with that. I think we're seeing that certain modeling techniques, like I've tried 2 or 3 different types of models, and sometimes it doesn't really do much. But then as I tweak it a little bit more, all of a sudden it's like, I'm getting higher and higher and higher on my confidence rating.
Yeah.
My model's doing better.
Yeah.
Sometimes simple works, and then being able to add extra pieces to that really put some nuance into how you're looking at those bets.
The hardest part about the model is when it's doing well, it's great. It's when it starts to correct, because things shift in betting. The numbers shift, the games change. There's just different things that happen. And that's the hardest part, is not over committing to the model, because you saw it. We were talking about back in July, and we said this before, I was like 15th. I was betting mostly favorites. And I was like, oh my God, the model's beautiful. And then bam, it just kind of, send me a reality check. And I had to pivot back and start going to dogs. And dogs were great. Dogs the last 2 months were very good to me. The playoffs, 0-2, -4 units, use the exact same model. It's hitting 62 to 67% most of the last probably 6 weeks. So did I pick the wrong games? Maybe. Did the model just not work in the playoffs? I don't know.
Yeah, because it's the playoffs.
Exactly.
Parity with the teams that are playing, so the numbers have crunched together a little tighter, and things that kind of gave you a little more value to your model before may not be quite as germane in the playoffs because of the parity.
That's right. Exactly. Let's see, what else do we got here? So live betting strategies. Do you live bet?
I have not yet. That's the next thing you're probably going to get me into.
Live betting, I'll say a couple things about live betting. I think we should park. That's a great roundtable topic, I think. And just, get the handicappers. Actually, I want to bring a bookie on. Actually, I was talking to Tim about this as well. We've talked to a couple pro handicap, at least one pro handicapper, somebody used to pro handicap. We're going to have a kind of one of our power users, I guess. I consider him a power user because he's avidly or always on the site. He's given us great feedback. And so I love that. But I would love to know how the house sees us and our bets and our philosophies. And I don't know he's going to tell us everything because obviously that's his livelihood, but I would love to have that conversation. He offered to come on, but we'll see if it happens.
Oh, that would be great because there's more to learn. Like when I look at the live betting piece and how that works, depending on which sports book I'm looking at that time.
Right.
I mean, I'm still learning the terminology and the different things that are offered on these packages.
Oh God,
the bet to come in, I'm like,
free bets,
and boost. That sounds great. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So it's still a learning process for me.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn just on those sports books. They have so many bells and whistles.
I'm excited to have the guests come on and talk about that, the people that have experience with it, because I want to learn more about the live betting strategies down the road.
The only thing I'm going to say about live betting, there's only one thing I'll say about it today, and this is probably the thing I believe in more than anything, and I've seen more often than anything, is when you watch a game, you obviously know who's favored. You kind of know which side the public's on, right? It doesn't even matter which side the public's on, honestly. But you know who's actually winning the bet. And the one thing that I've noticed and I've learned a lot is, a lot of times you see the game and you go, oh my God, the Chiefs, they're down 7, and now they've just got to win the game. They were favored by 7, also they got to win. You think it's a great bet. They're on tilt. And I can tell you what, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm really, really confident that the teams are on tilt lose more than they win by a big margin. Like, I'm not saying 51%, I'm saying like 65%.
Oh, really? That high?
And it's amazing. You'll get these teams that are the better team that'll be behind, and people will throw money because it's like, okay, God, I was getting a Chiefs -150. Now there's no spread. Now they're plus 300. You think that's a great bet. It's a sucker bet. And trust me, I've fallen for that a lot in the past. I try to avoid. That's one of the things I've almost like a checklist when I go to live bet. Like, all right, am I betting with a tilt or am I betting with the winner? Yep. And I have a few check boxes, but that's the number one thing that I will point out to anybody listening. Always be aware if you're betting with the people on tilt, trying to get their money back, or if you're betting with the guys that are winning, because just watch that. That's a key thing to notice.
All right. Now, our next thing was the playoffs versus the regular season. We just kind of touched on that a little bit of, with a more parity in the Major League Baseball playoffs with the teams, what is the impact of the model, or is there going to be an impact to current models that they have? We're kind of finding that out.
I was going to say, I don't know if you're going to answer the question.
Yeah,
right? I mean, I'm using the model 0-2, right? But my sample size is so small. I may go win 6 or 7 in a row, and the next week I'll be like, Brian, model's working beautifully. So
it's great. Why weren't you betting?
I guess we need a crystal ball on the table. You can shake it up, maybe with those little 8-ball things. Maybe that's, I don't know.
That could be the next prize people win, is the little BetGadget 8-ball. Just turn it over.
Talking about the little thing they used to roll across the table and it basically kicks out an answer to questions or something.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm totally joking.
That would be good.
But honestly, the thing is, we have a lot of data. We've got months of data of regular season. And I was watching the Minnesota-Toronto game last night. It's amazing how much different a playoff game is. And I've seen these, obviously. I'm 51 years old. I've watched playoff games. I've been to the World Series, right? So I was like, wow. I bet Toronto. I still was okay with betting Toronto, but I was like, that home field advantage, I kind of ignore a lot. I look at home kind of road records during the regular season to see who's good on the road and who's good at home a little bit. But man, there's a whole other element when they get into the playoffs. Minnesota lost 18 straight or something, and man, those fans were nuts. It was like a freaking concert.
Yeah.
I was like, they had to be pumped. That pitcher had to be throwing like 4 miles an hour over the freaking regular speed. I was like, wow. So there might be some elements there that we need to consider. I mean, how do you build a tool that measures the excitement of the fans in the playoffs? I don't know. Maybe it's the handle, but we don't know the handle. We just know primetime games, which these are all primetime as far as I'm concerned, especially at night.
Definitely. I mean, thinking about it as a primetime or a major game like that.
Yeah.
So you've got a couple of those components that come in there. The fans are fired up.
Yeah.
There's a little, it's playoff time. This is what you've been working for all year. You're trying to make it to the big dance at the end of this thing. And, so two sides of that pendulum, right? Overexcitement.
Yeah.
You choke, or, you bring out, your A game comes out to a T. It's A+ game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people really rise up and you see some amazing, amazing games.
Well, what I'm going to do probably, and I can't do this right now until we're probably a week into the playoffs, but you hear me on these videos. If you listen to the videos, I'll say, okay, I took the last week or the last 2 weeks or the last 3 weeks of games. I kind of do my analytics based on different sample sizes, based on just kind of try to look at different views. And obviously, I'll probably run the metrics. I would say probably by this time next week, I'll run the metrics for a week of postseason. And I'll kind of compare those to the last month of regular season, or maybe the last 2 months. It'll be interesting to see kind of what, kind of information or data points stand out, because there's just not enough data really on the postseason right now.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
But it'll get there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So next, NFL, where are we? We know this is a new data set for BetGadget, because the season's just kind of underway now. We've got 4 weeks into this.
Well, let's do a little tool stuff here. So let's go to NFL. Let's hit some analytics. I built some analytics for the NFL. Actually, you know what? We'll do 2 things. These are the models. Let's see how the models are doing. This one's just fading the public reverse line movement, 27%. That's interesting. Typically, I would think that would be the opposite, but I'm not really just betting reverse line movement. Let's see, home and away. This is interesting. I told you I built this model. I took 2 gadgets and added a 3rd gadget, a 4th gadget. Kind of kept seeing how the added gadgets kind of changed the results. But home and away, money line 5 and 3, not really helpful. Let's go into team stats. When you added the team stats to the home and away record, 56% still negative units. Then we threw in the spreads. What did I do with the spreads? Let's just look at the spreads a little bit here. So I have some ranges here. The spread is not populated. It may have an issue, a bug. I need to go back and double check that. You get into the splits. I do actually emphasize, I love that 20 to 40% fade, but it's not the reason I bet. It's just a data point, but it's one I definitely look at. I'll even kind of elaborate on that a little bit. So if I go down here to the spread bet percentage, let's see here. Basically 0 to 10%, 48 points. I do it typically in increments or intervals of like 32. So this is like 1.5. And I had to adjust my numbers, but you can see once you get into that 40 to 50 range, really 40 to 60 range, I absolutely hate it because I feel like it's a coin toss. You get down to the 20 to 40, I get pretty excited. The 10 to 20 may be off. And then you also get some heavy favorites, and they typically do pretty well. So you get these teams that are 90% of the split. I'll even show you the numbers. I'll even back this up with the analytics in a minute. But the spread does not seem like it's working. We got lots of good stats there. Let's go back to the analyze page. Oh, drop me back over to baseball. Where are you going? Probably shouldn't be drinking and driving my computer, huh? No, I'm kidding. I'm not drinking. Let's see here. Spread change. How much does the line move? Still 5 and 4. Then you get over. This is the one I've been using. This is the one I used last weekend. I've been using what I call Model 2. That does home away, team stats, spread, and spread change. This one basically is for the 27th. What's the 4th? Are those right dates for the last week? Yeah, they are. Okay. So yeah, on the spread, it's 5 and 5, negative 0.7 on the money line, which I don't really bet money line. So that's interesting. But let me show you a little something that's interesting. When I was building the model, I was trying to take the first couple of weeks of analytics, right? Mm-hmm. So the season started, as I recall, September 7th. And let's say 2 weeks would go to the 19th. Watch these numbers change. When I built my model, originally try to understand the analytics, watch the numbers just go up like crazy. Look at these numbers. So I was taking the analytics and building the model based on the analytics. The problem is we're 4 weeks in. They play one game a week. We've got 16 games times 4 weeks, 64 games.
Yep.
Whereas baseball, you get that 3 or 4 days, not half a week or whatever. So we don't have prior year. So honestly, I did my prior years mostly in my head. And I also have done very well historically later in the season. So I don't have a lot of data. I should probably maybe back off and play smaller units or maybe lower amount of money per unit. I don't know. But I'm pretty bullish. And actually, I was up, 3.5 units on Sunday. I was pretty pleased. And then Monday, I was so giddy about the Giants. And I don't know if I was drinking Kool-Aid that was spiked or what the hell happened on that one. Or maybe the offensive line drank Kool-Aid that was spiked. I'm not sure what the hell that game was.
That was, I'm going to call that an outlier.
You just got to forget those. Here's the thing. We're betting. We're looking for bets that have value and win more than we lose. We're going to lose bets. Don't go into a casino. Don't bet on sports if you expect to win every game. It's idiotic to think that way. But, the point is, as the season gets deeper, I will keep tweaking these models. I will find the model that's going to be consistently a winner, or at least should win more weeks than it doesn't. So that's something to think about. But honestly, I really like to get into about 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks before I can really start to hammer the bets in the second half of the year. And then to get to the playoffs, my God, you've got lots of data.
Yeah, you've got tons of data, and once again, that parity comes into play where those teams, they're in the playoffs for a reason.
Yeah.
And that level of evenness makes those little tweaks up and down on your widgets in your model really kind of paint a picture.
They do. They really do. So we'll see. Here's the thing. There's so much parity in football, and I don't really know if there's a lot of value going from the prior year. Because, maybe the metrics are valid, but as far as the team stats, how much parity is in the sport, how, a few free agents move around, and, Rodgers going to the Jets. Of course, he's not playing, but there's certain things like that. I'm not sure the analytics really work, but I don't know. Well, we'll investigate that year, and we'll start to get deeper into it.
You're right up from the historical standpoint over time to see how the widgets perform over the course of the season.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of have to clear the slate off a little bit.
You do.
Each year because, you look at some of the teams now that were supposed to be just absolutely crushing it, and they're, 1-3, 2-2.
But you know what? I was thinking about that the other day. Look at last year. Detroit started off last year really bad. I think they just missed the playoffs. So there's a lot of teams right now that look like crap. I was even joking around about the Giants to somebody the other day. I was like, man, the Giants look so bad, and I guarantee they'll probably play the Cowboys the next few weeks, which are amazing at rushing the passer. And guess what? They'll probably block every time. They probably won't even give them a sack. The NFL is so odd in so many ways.
Yep.
So once you think you figured it out, it changes. No matter what. That's the only thing I can guarantee you. It's always going to change. So anyway, let's say, what else do we got here?
Talk about new features.
New features.
UI. The other new features we ought to be.
Let's talk about this modeling. Let's go to this one over here, number 2 I have. Let's talk about this feature. There's a couple of features here we don't talk about a lot on the show, right? But I think are really important. The sharing model is really interesting because I can take this model, I can share it with you, I can make it so you can trace it on the main page so you can see kind of things. You can view the model if you want to see how it's built. Or you can make it hit the edit button, which means if I share it with you, it's like a shared file. We can both see it, which we can collaborate and make adjustments. It's just a shared file, basically. This one doesn't really show anything because I should probably do baseball, but because I have a ton of shared models on baseball. You go to picks. This one's really interesting. When I was doing the tweaking a couple of weeks ago, where you could see the 65, the 95, the heavy percentage wins. I was tweaking the picks page, trying to understand what is my criteria for picking the games versus no picking the games. And the things I kind of did is, the first thing I did is I noticed there were some teams that had 0% confidence because I have negative values. And so if I really want the model not to pick a team, I'll have a certain value that I just say that's a no-go. And I'll put like negative 1,000 points. It'll just drop it to 0. So, but I was like, I don't really want to. I want to have some teams that are really bad, but they're not quite as 0. So I made the kind of the floor, the sum of confidence, 1% or higher. So that if they're 1% or higher, they can still be qualified for a pick. And then the second thing I did is I said, I really want to have the difference in the teams be more than 10%, which for baseball, I have it set at 20.
Yeah.
And then basically you have the highest magnitude. So there's a pick element before you even get to the units. excuse me. Then you get to the units, and obviously we default to the Kelly criteria, which honestly works relatively well. And in this model, you cannot actually allocate more than one unit to the units component because of the contest, right? Because if I said I want to put 1 million units, I could basically blow everybody up. I went 1-0. So we have it set up so basically that you can never have more than one unit on this right now because of the contest. So anyway, that's what I did. As I said, the highest confidence is less than 0 to 15. I give it a half a point. If it's 15 to 100, so it's much more than 15% confidence. It has to be. This would be like two really bad teams with low confidence. I don't really want to put a lot of weight. You can put 0.1, 0.25, whatever, like less than 1. Then over here, I said, okay, I'll put a full unit on if it's over 50. And then the second thing is that the confidence between the two teams is less than, basically, it's less than 10% difference, maybe half. It's more than 10%.
A little stronger.
So that's kind of a way to set it up. And like I said, we're going to basically work heavily on the UX usability to make the modeling much more usable, but not so usable that everybody goes, oh my God, I can just turn the knobs a couple times and we get the same result. We want the skill factor to remain, which is really, really important to us. But those are the features I'm excited about. I probably took some notes. Actually, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. We have a new gadget called Price. And Price is basically, you can now set a value based on the price of the game. So like I like to get teams that are, in baseball, like, dogs that are plus 100, plus 120, whatever, plus 150. You can actually put weight behind the game now based on the price of the game, which is kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
So, I mean, so hypothetically, as part of my kind of dog baseball model, I could hypothetically put negative 1,000 points if I'm always basically minus 101 to minus 300. And that way I'll never really ever get a pick for a favorite. Of course, I also want to evolve the modeling to say, if it's this, then no, don't proceed through the model and just don't pick it. So there's a lot of improvements.
Yeah.
But these are kind of the initial improvements. You guys kind of see where we're going with this. But there's a lot of cool stuff coming. And honestly, I think I've really been wanting to do, but I haven't found volunteers. I want to get somebody to give me a spreadsheet. And I want to basically start to work with a chief nerd officer to basically import spreadsheets so people don't have to take all the data. Even if they take our tool and just use it to pull the data to populate their spreadsheets and pull it back out. I don't care. I want people to be able to use their spreadsheets because they love them. They're pretty passionate. And we're going to do a lot of the same things. You saw, I think, the reverse line movement spreadsheet I did because I had to kind of talk to August. And I'd love to be able to heat map. I also want to do split screens, so I can see the analytics while I'm setting down the models. I want to have a table, like a list view of the analytics so I can crunch numbers and heat map and really kind of see the trends versus trying to look at all the different kind of, dashboards. The little meter thing is cool.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really help me heat map and kind of see where the trend's going. It's a cool thing to see, but it's not really as functional for what I like to do.
It's just bringing those different views of that data to life now within the tool.
Exactly. The biggest thing is we're going to listen to our community. And these people they're good. We're going to see what they want. We're going to do some cool stuff and we're going to roll with it. So
awesome.
I think there's a lot of cool features coming. We're excited. Obviously, where we're going as a company. So there's a lot to be excited about. This is just scratching the surface right now.
Well, speaking of community, so you've kind of got the note here of what happens in the community when you put your picks out there. When they win, everybody loves you. And when you lose on your pick, everybody hates you.
That's why I have a volume controller. I just turned off the browser. No, I'm kidding. I mean, honestly, here's the thing, right? We're not here to sell picks. We're here to basically promote modeling. We're here to basically promote collaboration. We want people to win. We put out our picks for two reasons. One is I do believe the picks are good picks. But more importantly, I want people to see that we're not picking, hey, I'm a Chiefs fan, so therefore I bet the Chiefs with my heart. I'm a Nebraska fan. We wanted people to see, and we don't really spend a lot of time, maybe with the roundtable with the power users, we should build a model as a group. Oh, that'd be, then we come back the next month and we could kind of reconcile the model, tweak the model, or maybe even do it more than once a month. I don't know, because that's really the point of this whole thing we're doing, is to give people the ability to model like the handicappers in ways that allow them to be successful.
Being able to get everybody, the power users, to come on, do that modeling on the show.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Really cool.
I would love that.
And I think, well, we're getting there. We're getting there on the tech side to be able to do that. But that'd be really awesome. Everybody kind of weigh in on let's make the community model.
Exactly.
Everybody weigh in.
As far as the community, I mean, I don't know. Tim could probably tell you better than I can, but I've seen a lot of feedback, a lot of quotes where people are thrilled with the wins. They're thrilled with the results. They love the tool. They love the videos. And I see people that basically make fun of it and make fun of things. There's always going to be haters. You know, if they're not talking to you, they're talking about you. So bring them on. We love that too. At least they're talking about us, right? You're building our brand, by the way. So just keep,
thank you very much.
So yeah. So, I mean, but my argument really is tell me what your model is, what your picks are, and convince me of a better way to win. And I'll definitely listen. I'm not here to basically beat my chest and try to, force my model or my picks on anybody. I'm here to share what I'm doing and take it for what it's worth. And I'd love to hear what other people do.
Oh, well, and that's one of the beauty of this is it's very, you're very transparent about what you're doing with this.
Oh yeah.
So I've been learning a lot just from you and the other community members and conversations with people. So I think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. We covered basically the newer features.
Yep.
Let's see. You mentioned predictive confidence being a gold star metric, but sometimes you pick games with smaller delta. Why? That's a really good question. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday, and even today, I guess. Actually, let me look at baseball. It probably won't even let me do it today because games are probably started. Now the games were started, but basically, you get in the postseason. Yesterday, I think there was not a single game where the dog was more than 10% higher. And obviously, as the founders of BetGadget, we want to put out, promote the tool. So I can't say, well, I have 4 no picks. Thanks for listening to my video with nothing on it. So honestly, if I was purely 100% just here to bet, I probably would pick up no bet, go crack a beer, go turn on a movie with a girlfriend, and wait till the next day. I would love to look for the unicorn bets, the ones that I feel like, and trust me, I have seen some bets, and I see them about once every 2 to 3 weeks where you'll get a team that's like, let's say, predictive confidence is 25, 35% higher. They're getting plus 150. You go, what is that? And I love those bets because you know what? Even if I lose, I know I'm getting tremendous value. If I get 10 of those, I'm going to make money.
You can do it. Yeah.
So it's really just comes down to a combination of things. And honestly, getting the playoffs or if it's the Super Bowl and the game gets down, let's say hypothetically where it's so close or it's a no pick, I'm still betting. The Super Bowl, I'll bet something. It may not be 10 units or something crazy, but I'm definitely betting something.
Putting something down. Enjoy the ride, right?
Exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming. I definitely need to probably spend a little bit more time talking about college football. Like college football, God, I think it was this Saturday or the Saturday before. I was like 6-0. I was just thrilled about college football. And then I guess it must have been 2 weeks ago. I think I was 6-0 on college football. Then NFL is like 2-2 or 2-3 or something, and it kind of leveled out. But that's gambling. That's sports betting.
Yep. Well, that's my next thing is to jump into some of the college football. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to weigh in yet on that, but I'm excited about that.
Well, you're a K-State guy. You're probably just going to bet K-State anyway.
Well, I know, but now I'm going to use the tool.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, no pick the K-State. You'll just have a little, maybe put a little Wildcat logo on there for you.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'll be good. I'll go make my K-State formulated chocolate bars and other items and have myself a brewski and call it good when it's a no pick. But yeah, it's exciting. So let's kind of walk back. What do we got coming up? We've talked about the new features. We got the UI that's coming out.
Yep.
We're working diligently to be able to get this live broadcast stuff together so we can have people come in.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the community members, the big modelers that are in there every day playing with that.
Yeah.
Jump on it. Everybody roundtable around this. So let's make the roundtable model and see how it works.
I want to talk much of that one. I'll let you kind of moderate that. Let those guys go. I'll just drive.
Yeah, you drive the bus, man. I think that'd be fantastic. I'd love to see that. Because there's so many, everybody's got so many good ideas or sometimes bad ideas. Like I had bad ideas all the time. But and at the end of the day, that communication and the things that you learn, how somebody's looking at something from one perspective versus how you looked at it. And then you take the data and the tool and you go, all right, this looks like a good chance.
I think over time, I think as this grows, I really think that we'll get a lot more of that kind of Q&A on models and what's a model look like, what have you done last week versus this week. It'll be much more interactive on the modeling piece than us probably, chopping it up over K-State. But, we've had, obviously business on. The guy's very, very good at what he does. I've talked to Trex. He's not been on yet. We have Chris Libo, I think, coming on in a week. We've been on Twitter with a professional handicapper named August Young. I think we're going to get a bookie to come on, which I offered to let him come on. Basically, you put a bag over his head and muffle his mouth, and he's like, no, I'll do it anyway. But we'll see how that plays out, which I think we're going to have some really interesting shows. Yeah, pretty excited about it.
And I really like the idea of being able to engage with the community on that as well, and let's share everybody's experience and thoughts as you build the model out, because you learn a lot from that.
You do. You really do. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, there's just a lot to be excited about, a lot of improvements. I'm not sure what else do we have to really talk about. The marketing guy says to shut up, so I guess we're probably wrapping this thing up.
I guess this is going to be a wrap.
Bring him over here. Let's put his finger on the table and smash it for mouthing off. Not yours. You're the marketing guy. Are you the marketing guy?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Exactly. That should be my penalty. If I have a bad week, put my hand out. Bam.
Well, that's where we originally got this, because if I lose my bets and if I was shadowing you.
Yeah, back of the head.
The hammer of Thor on the bet, this is a different type of widget and gadget. It's the hammer gadget.
It's the enforcer.
Yes, it is indeed. So looking forward to next week, and we're going to continue the process of getting our community more involved in this, so that it's not just us talking, but it's everybody getting together.
Yeah.
And figuring out where's the next steps, what's going on. And everybody look forward to the new UI that's coming out. I think it looks pretty nice.
I think you'll see it probably by this time next week. I'll be shocked if it's not up by then.
All right. So we'll go ahead and say that's a wrap for this week.